So for this question, it is another vocab question. And of course, it helps to know the meaning of the word somber to get this question right. But if you got it wrong, it's probably because you just had no idea what somber meant and you weren't able to figure out the meaning of it from the context clues. So I'm just going to be very honest about this question. It's going to be hard to get this question right if you don't know the meaning of the word somber. The context clues aren't as helpful as they usually are for other kinds of questions, like for the ones that we used for the question on dexterity. But still, there's a way to kind of try to figure out the meaning based on the context clues and give yourself at least a better chance of getting it right. Trying to get your chances from a 25% chance, which is just, 1 out of 4, it's pure probability, to maybe a 50% chance, which is about half, or even potentially a 75% chance. And the way that you get your probability higher for answering a question correctly is by eliminating, um, using the process of elimination. So eliminating bad answer options. So let's talk about some of the context clues you can try and use to figure out the meaning of somber in this passage. Right. The only other clues we can find about Bridget are other adjectives or descriptors, words that describe who she is and what she's like. So we have somber, but we don't know what that means, maybe. So we need to look at another word that could give us another idea. Sullen. Now, if you know the meaning of the word sullen, it's kind of like sulky. Looking at some other words here, morose, but that's another fancy vocab word that you might not know. Kind of like pouting. So sort of like somebody who's very um, serious all the time. Then there's another phrase in this passage that says, she looked at him darkly. Now, it's a weird kind of word description of how you're looking at someone as an adverb, right? Darkly, but kind of like with uh, serious intentions, right? With kind of like this intensity to her. That's how she looks at him. She looks at him darkly, as if in doubt. So she's kind of not sure how to feel about this guy. And she's intense, and she's sullen, she's somber. This is about as much as we have to go off of, right? I think that phrase, as if in doubt. So she's kind of doubting him. She's not really sure how to feel about this guy who is running away from the police. And she's maybe deciding in this moment if she wants to help him or not. And then with her question, do you want me to hide you? We know, oh, okay, she's deciding she's going to help him. So we have evidence that would point us to a couple of these answer options. So that's why this is such a tough question. She's a helpful person. That looks like a possibility because she's offering to help him, right? She says, do you want me to hide you? So it sounds like A is an option. Does somber mean that she's helpful? The way that we can kind of avoid that trap or that distractor is by looking at somber and what it's next to. We see the word somber is next to the word sullen. So if we know what sullen means, we can kind of figure out that somber is something similar. And then after that, we see that she looks at him darkly, as if in doubt. So she's kind of testing him. She's kind of evaluating him in this moment, which isn't the idea of helpful just yet. We get the idea of helpful later on when she asks him the question, do you want me to hide you? But when somber appears in the passage, it's more about her kind of intense attitude towards him. She's an agreeable person. Agreeable means really friendly. And so that doesn't seem to match well with somber, sullen, and doubting and looking at him darkly, right? It doesn't really kind of fit with what we know about Bridget either, because we later find out that Bridget is angry at him because he rejects her and he turns her offer for help down. So she's not a very agreeable person either. Um, is she indecisive, meaning, oh, she's doubting herself? This is another tough one because you'd be tempted to think that she is indecisive. She's doubting herself because of that phrase, as if in doubt. But she's not doubting herself. She's looking at him and she's doubting his character. She's trying to come up with a decision if he's really the type of guy who she wants to help out. And so that's what the doubt is saying about Bridget's character. It's not saying that she's indecisive. She can't make up her mind. It's that she's kind of looking at him and she's trying to figure out who he is. And there's a very subtle, slight difference there, which again makes this question really, really tough. But for all of the reasons that we talked about earlier, about somber meaning kind of serious, intense, sullen meaning similar, kind of sulky, pouty, brooding, um, and looking at him darkly, looking at him intensely, and then trying to figure out his character as if in doubt. All of these should point us to the correct answer option, which is B, that she is a serious person. And serious is the closest synonym, it's the closest in meaning to the word somber. And so that's the best I've got for you if you got question 3 wrong. There are some questions that you're just going to not be able to know, and that's okay. You're going to get a couple questions wrong, most likely, but you want to give yourself the best chance possible. And this is, I think, the way that you could try to use context clues to figure out the meaning of somber.